Okay, so this video we're talking about how to use Excel to run a basic single and multiple regressions. And I'm gonna do all the models for the homework 5 that we have. Okay, so let's start with the growth file. So this is the Excel file for a regression. Usually, or by default, that we have variable names on the first row. Okay, so we want all the variable names to be only one word. Okay, so if you have two words, you kind of like use an underline to connect them so that it's only one word. There is no blank between all the things. So for example, country name, you can use an underline to connect these two names. Okay, so this is some of the very basic rules that we follow. Okay, and the reason why we do that is because when we use programming languages, if your variable names contains more than one word, then the programming language might think they are different variables. Okay, so all the variable names has to be only one word. So for example, trade share, you can just combine these two words into one word. Years of school, you can ignore the off because you understand what it means. I don't remember what this rev copes mean. But all of these are the values of these variables. And what are these values for? They are for different countries. Okay, so the first column is always an identity of each observations. Okay, it could be different school districts. Okay, school district 1, school district 2. In this case, it's countries. Okay, or in some other cases, it could be individuals. Okay, or household 1, household 2, and you can have the name for the households. You can also have the ID of the households. We usually don't run a regression with variable 1 because they're names. They don't have any numeric meaning. But we will run regressions from the second to last columns. And what's our dependent variable? Okay, our dependent variable here is growth. Okay, it's percentage of GDP growth. And so we naturally imagine that the last few columns will be our X variables. Okay, you can see that these variables looks like they are continuous, and column C looks like it's a dummy variable. Okay, or it turns out it doesn't have any information. So you can look at here. Okay, go down. If you select column C, you can see that the average is 0. Count 66. Okay, count 66 means that we have 65 countries. Okay, I don't know, maybe 66. Let's see. We have 65 countries because the first column is the variable name. Sorry, first row is variable name. All right, so it seems like oil doesn't have any information. But anyways, let's go to the models. Okay, so the models are not given. I wrote them down based on our homework. Okay, you are required to practice all of them before our homework practice class. Sorry, our homework class, so that in the homework, when I explain the homeworks, you can directly look at our regression results. Okay, so let's start with the first model. The first model says regress growth on trade share, years of school, this Rev Copes assassination, and RGB 60. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to highlight our dependent variable so that you have an idea about which one is what we're gonna regress on. And then we're gonna reorganize the columns that we have. Okay, why do we need to reorganize? This is something bad about Excel. Okay, in Excel, you have to organize the columns. So our models is Cheshire, years of schooling, Rev Corps, assassination, and RGDP 60. So you have to reorganize your columns to fit to fit these 5 variables so that they looks together. Okay, what am I gonna do? I need to move column D to the last column. Okay. All right. Now I can delete column D because this is empty right now, or I don't need to delete. It doesn't matter. What I need to highlight is that column D to column H follows the same order of the model that we dedicated to. Okay. So let's highlight it. Let's change another color. Okay. All right. Or maybe these colors are not so good. Anyways, Cheshire, years of schooling, Red Club, assassination, and RGB 60. Okay, so column B is our Y, column D to H is our X variables. Okay, we want them to be together in the order that we want. We don't want any other variables in between them. Okay, so now we are gonna go to File. In the right hand side at the bottom, you can see an options. Okay, click options and goes to add in. If you're not using Windows system, you have to kind of find an add in anyway. Okay. I don't know how, okay, I don't know. I don't know how Mac users do it, but you have to find an add in setting. And at the bottom, there is manage Excel add-in. You don't need to do anything here, but you click go. Okay, so here is some add-in that are available for us to choose. And we want to check analysis tool pack and click OK. All right, if you don't understand or you didn't follow, you should watch this again. But after this, after clicking OK, you will go to data up here and you should see a data analysis somewhere in this panel. Okay, so click data analysis. All right. So here are the analysis that are useful for us. A lot of them you probably are familiar with. See, there is even descriptive statistic correlation covariance, histogram, t-test, z-test. Okay. You might want to do t-test, explore how to do t-test, z-test on your own so that maybe in other classes you are asked to do it. Anyways, we select regression, click OK. All right, I want you to follow me step by step. Now, input Y range. We know that Y range is column B because we already highlighted in yellow. So we select B2 all the way to the last observation, okay, which is B66. Okay. Be careful, it's B2 instead of B6, it's B2 instead of B1. You can see the dollar sign here. What do they mean? They mean that it's locked over there. Okay. All right. So how about X range? We know that we have 5 different x variables from D2 all the way to age 66. So you have 2 options. You can simply type here. Oops. You can simply type D $2 to $age $66, or you can select them. Okay, you can also select them. What's the problem with selection? Now we only have 65 countries, so it doesn't take us a long time to get to the bottom, right? But imagine if we have 3,000 observations. Let's say 3,000 human. Then it's better if you type it, right? Okay, so you know you don't need to do anything. Okay. You don't need to do label or constant is 0 or confidence interval, because confidence interval is by default. Output range, you don't need to click anything because it would generate a new worksheet, sorry. You don't need to do any plots, okay? Or maybe plots are interesting. I don't know. Okay, let's maybe see some plots. Okay, but generally you don't need to do anything. Okay, and then you click OK. Let's see what we get. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, forget that about the plot. If you don't check anything, this area is what you get. Okay, ignore the plots. Okay, we don't require you to understand the plots. Okay, so what is here? We have regression statistics. We have multiple R square, adjusted R square. These two are what we know. Okay. These two are useful as well. Because if you need to calculate F statistic, then you need R square, right? Okay, so maybe highlight them. You need to know that observations, okay? You need to know that we have 65 countries. All right, what are these? These things are not required, but I can simply show you something. So for example, these are the TSS, ESS, and RSS. Okay, sorry. TSS, ESS, and SSR. Okay, this is TSS. This is ESS. So 82 divided by 230 is our R square. Okay, this is the total variation. 230 is the total variation of our growth, while only 82 of them are explained by our models. Okay, so how much percentage is that? It is 35.88%. How about degree of freedom? Okay, so we do not require you to understand degree of freedom, but degree of freedom is basically something you can think of. How much restrictions do we put on the regression? Okay, the more restriction you have, the less freedom you have. Okay, intuitively. Okay, so we have 5 restrictions on our regression because we have 5 x variables. So how much freedom you are left? For residual, 59. Okay. Why is there only 64 in total? Okay, this is a tricky question. Because we have 65 countries, and by default, we say that we have 64 degree of freedom. Okay. Okay, let's not go there. Okay, because it's not really required. The yellow part is what I require you to understand. Okay, what else? coefficients is important. And what are the coefficients for them? The first one is beta 0. The second one is beta 1. Do we remember the x variable? Yes, we remember that the first one is trade share. The second one is years of schooling. The third one is an REV scope thing. I don't remember. The fourth one is assassination. And the fifth one is GDP 60. Okay. All right, so now you have beta heads for all the variables. You have beta 0, which is the intercept. You should understand we have standard error for all of them. We have t-statistic for all of them. We have p-value for all of them. And of course, we also have confidence interval, right? What's the weird thing? The weird thing in Excel is that it repeats these columns for twice, and I never figured out why. Okay, so let's ignore these. Okay, so all the yellow parts is what you need to know. I can set a question in the final. Let's say I block some let's say I block some values out. For example, I block these out and I ask you to calculate them. Can you do it? And the answer is yes, right? Or I block these out and I ask you to calculate them for me, and you can do it, right? Because what do you have? Because you have coefficients, you have standard error, so you can calculate t-statistic. If you can calculate t-statistic, you can calculate p-value. Once you have coefficient and standard error, you can get me lower and upper 95% confidence interval. Or I can ask you to get me 99% confidence interval. Okay. So these are basic things that by now you should understand. All right, so this is our first regression. And in the class next Tuesday, we will discuss how do we find correct answers for all the questions on Pearson. Okay. All right, but this video is simply about how to run regressions. So let's finish the rest of the models. The second model asks you to drop Malta as a country. Okay, so we don't want Malta. Why? Because Malta's trade share is crazy. Okay, it simply is a port. It's simply how do we say it doesn't buy anything from the outside. Everything they imported, they ended up exporting them out. Okay. Okay, so we don't want Malta. So all of our information should stop at row 65. Okay. So what are we gonna do? We go to data analysis, regression, okay. Now we want to change these information to 65. Okay, because we don't want the last country. Okay, if Malta is in the middle, what do we need to do? We have to move Malta to the last row, and when we select the information, we don't select it. Okay. All right, so we don't need all of these plots. We don't need it. Okay, click OK. All right, this new sheet is what we need. The last two is not not important because they are just a repeat information. Okay, so the 5 variables are the same. You can simply copy them from the previous graph, previous table, sorry. And we will explain all of these information later. Okay. You can compare the coefficient with the first results, and you might see something different because right now we have excluded a very how to say outlier. Okay, so in sheet 1, trade share has a coefficient of 1.56, and in the second sheet the trade share is 1.34. And in the second sheet, trade share is not significant anymore. But in the first sheet, first model, trade share is just enough to be significant at 5% level. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Okay, let's finish the last one. Add oil as an extra independent variable. Okay, I just said that in the beginning, we know that oil is a useless information because everyone's oil equals to 0. Means that what did they mean? They mean these countries doesn't produce oil or something? Okay, never mind. Cut. We want to move this to the last column because right now it is the 6th variable. Okay. It is the 6th variable, so let's highlight it as well. Okay, now we want to run the regression from column C, row number 2, all the way to column H, row number 66, because now Marta is included again. We want to know what's gonna happen with oil, the last variable. Okay, let's try. Okay, regression. For Y, it's B2 to B66. For X range, it's actually C2. Whoops, should be capital C, to H66. Okay. Now C is trade share, H is oil. We click OK. All right, what happened to the last variable? The last variable doesn't have any information, so it is 0. Standard error cannot be calculated, or is 0 as well. T statistic is crazy. P-value cannot be calculated. Well, if coefficient is 0, then confidence interval is 0 too, which means what? Means that this variable is useless. Okay, this variable doesn't even have any power in our model. Okay, so this result will be the same with the first model we ran. Okay, because or all of these will be the same, but something changed. Degree of freedom changed. Okay. So adjusted R squared changed. R squared also changed, I think. Yeah. Okay. So adjusted R squared, let me see. Adjusted R squared changed, R squared changed. That's weird. I don't know why. Okay. Maybe something is wrong here. I think R squared should not change because the last variable is exactly 0. So, but adjusted R squared should decrease because there is a punishment about it. Okay, so I don't know why this happens, but okay, I don't know why this happens. But in a programming language, this should not happen. Okay. All right, in case you guys confused, let's just focus on the questions in our homework first, okay? All right. Okay, so that's all the three models, okay? Let's start doing our second file. CPS 06 8 2008, I guess. Okay, so what is CPS? CPS is a household survey, okay? They kind of call a bunch of people every year, and then they ask them some information about how much do you earn recently? What's your basic demographic information? And then by that, we can have a kind of like a monitor or an idea about how the labor market is doing. Okay. All right, so we have 9 regressions to run. I run them one by one, but maybe less explanation because we have to do it faster. Okay. All right, so this is our data. We can see that our y variables has been changing. Okay, so for example, the first 3 variables, the first 3 models ask you to run AHE, average hourly earning, on different x variables. But starting from model 4, we changed our dependent variable to a log AHE. Okay, so these two, okay, you can probably organize that a little bit. Whoops. Okay, so AHE, here is log AHE. Here's also log AHE. In model 6, it's back to AHE. And model 7 and model 8 and 9 are log AHE. Okay. And then you can also organize the x variable a little bit. Age, bachelor, female, age. Oops. Female, oops. Female and age. Okay, this is bachelor, female and age. And then bachelor, female, oops. And log age. Okay, age as a percentage change. Okay. How do you imagine you 10% older? Okay. All right. Model 6. Model 6, age square. Okay. Age square makes sense-ish. Okay. Bachelor female age square. Okay, age 2. And then bachelor female. So what do we do for model 6 and 7? We can do an F test, right? We can do an F test on age and age square combined. Okay. Last 2. Model 8, we have bachelor female, age, and interaction. Interaction of age and female. Okay, so we allowed effect of age to depend on gender. Okay, the slope of age can now differ for different gender. How about the last one? Oh, the last one is just the change of the interaction. Okay, so the last term is interaction of age and bachelor. So we allow the effect of age to differ across different education level. Okay, good. Okay, let's do them one by one. The first is AHE on age. So you highlight again, why do we highlight? Because it's easier for us to recognize. We highlight these two. And then, how many observations do we have? All right. If you go all the way down, it's 7712. Okay, so we have 7711 person in total, but our information starts from row number 2 all the way to row number 7712. Okay, so remember this information because it's easier for us to type things in. Okay. All right, let's go to data analysis, regression. For Y range, we have A2 all the way to A, how much? 7712. All right. How about X range? So X range should be Y2 all the way to Y7712. What you can do is just to you can copy paste and then change A to Y. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so this is what we need. It's better if we change the variable name to H so that it's easier for us to remember. Okay. Next, model 2, AHE on bachelor female and age. All right, how do we do this one? We have bachelor female and age. So we highlight all of these three. Now we don't need to move them around because they are together. Okay, so dependent variable has not changed, but independent variable will start from C2 to E7712. Okay, so data analysis regression. We have A2 to A7712. Our Y range will not change, but our X range starts from C2 to E7712. Okay, so this is what we need. And for our convenience, we will change the variable names here just for our convenience. Okay, because we'll come back here and take a look at all of these information to fill in our homework questions. Okay, next, we don't need bachelor anymore. Okay, we just need female and age. So this one back to black. Now the X range starts from D2, right? So data analysis regression. Y has not changed. X starts from D. Okay. Good. All right. And again, for convenience, we change the name of the variables, of the X variables. Okay. Next, now we change our Y variable. Okay. So we come back here. We want to generate a new variable called log AHE. Sorry, AHE. Oops. It looks ugly. Let me change the color. Okay. So now we don't care about this one. We care about this one. How do we do it? In B2, you type equal to log, okay, returns to the natural log of a number. Log A2, and then you click enter. You hit enter, All right, so log 38 is 3.6. And then you move your mouse to the left, right bottom of B2. You can see the white cross become a black cross. All right, these are I learned these things when I was in primary school or middle school, but in case you don't know it, okay? And then you double click. If you double click, then everything else will be calculated automatically all the way to row 7712. And remember what's our independent variable? With 3 independent variable, right? So we have these 3. Which color was I using? Oh, never mind. Okay. So data analysis, regression. Now our Y range starts from B2 to B7712, while our X starts from D2 to F7712. Okay, you hit OK. And for convenience, bachelor, female, and age. All right. So this is the information for our model 4. What about model 5? Model 5 doesn't want age, but log age. Okay. So we need to put log age next to female. Okay. So how do we do that? We insert a column between female and age. Now, age is not important anymore, but we need to calculate log age, right? So at F2, you type equal log G2 and then enter. Okay, and then you move your mouse here and double click. All right, that's everything you need. Okay, so data analysis, regression. Now we don't need to change anything because Y is log AHE and X is from D to F because we moved the age to column G. Good. So, okay. All right. Okay, now I want you guys to be very familiar with how we run a regression. Oops. Female. And the last one is log age. Okay. All right. Model number 6. Model number 6 goes back to AHE, but we don't want log age anymore. We want h squared. Okay, so what do? You come back to data. You highlight AHE instead of log AHE. Okay, again, you don't need to actually do the highlight. It's just a way for you to remember that things that things are easier to recognize. Okay. Now we don't need this, so we'll move them away. We need age. We also need an h square. Okay, so at G2, you type equal to F2 times F2. Okay, or F2 square. Okay, depends on what you want. And then you hit it, double click. Okay, now you highlight D to G. Whoops. Oh, let me change this color. Okay. Looks ugly. All right, D to G. I is not useful anymore, so take away its color. All right, so data analysis, regression. Now our Y is A2 because we're back to the linear version of dependent variable. Our X ranges from D to G. Okay, from D to G. We have to make sure that these 4 variables are together and in the right order. That's why I moved the log age away. So D2 to G7712. All right. That's what we need. Female age squared. Okay, so age squared is negative. Okay. All right, model 7. We don't need age and age squared. That is easy. We just change the color of these two. Okay, so data analysis, regression. Okay, and then A is still A2 to A7712, but X will be D2 to E7712. Good. Now we only have bachelor and female. Okay, last two. Last two is back to log AHE. So we change the color. Oops. Oh, never mind. And what about X variable? So here we need the interaction term. And we don't need H square anymore. So let's do that one by one. Since we don't need H square, we have to put it away. And now we need interaction. So usually what you do is H underline or H capital X. Okay, so this X is not the sign, but a capital X. Okay, that's usually how we model. That's usually how we write interaction term in a regression. Okay, in case you need to go to graduate school. So if you write it in this way, then everyone understand what you're writing. H times female. That's the first thing we need. Okay, so equal to F2 times E2. Okay, and then you move your mouse here and double click and everything else will be calculated. Now column D to G is what we need. And we change its color. Okay, good. Okay, data analysis, regression. Now Y has changed. Okay, be careful. Y has changed from B2 to B7712, while X will be D2 to G7712. Okay. H capital X female. Okay. Last model. Simply change the last variable to H times bachelor. Okay, so we don't need this. but we need age capital X. Capital X means times, oops, times bachelor. So type equal F2 times D2. Move your mouse here. Oh, you have to click G2 and move your mouse here and double click. All right. Data analysis, regression, okay. All right, everything stayed the same because you move the H times female away and put H times bachelor on G. So Y is still B2 to B7712 while X becomes D2 to G7712. Sounds good. Okay. See, column D to column G. Good, so click OK. And that's it. That's all of our 9 models in our homework. And in the class, we'll talk about how to find everything for our Pearson exercises. Okay, so you should keep all of these things, okay? Okay, again, in your exam, these are important. I will give you an Excel file and I will ask you to run the regression on your own. So the more familiar you are with it, you can see how fast it is for me to run an extra regression. Okay. So yes, be familiar with it so that you don't need to, I don't know how to move this column around, those kind of things. Okay. All right, that's it.